I just wanted to connect with people. I just saw people who had a like-minded interest in what I wanted, and I figured, wow, this is something I've always wanted, is a connection like this. And so part of me getting into online content and doing what I do was to find a sense of community and a sense of friendship and people that I can connect with.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to One Story Building, where stories are stored on top of each other for us to enjoy every day. Today's guest is singer, artist, and someone who has a giant plush toy polar bear in the background. It is Chichi. Welcome to One Story Building.
Pleasure to be here.
So, Chichi, your name is Chichi. You have a fancy internet handle name. Other online singers don't. Caleb Heil doesn't, Jonathan Young doesn't, and even CJ5 is just Charlie Green 5. No idea what the 5 stands for. So why do you think you chose, and why do you think it's important to have a fancy internet non-name name?
Well, for me personally, I feel like it adds a nice it gives you a chance to try something new. If you want to go with your real name, that's perfectly fine, but I feel like this way you have the chance to be something else for a little bit. If you don't want it to be like the main thing you're known for the rest of your life, that's perfectly fine. And then that way you have that amount of distance to it, so that way you don't feel like this has to be your only identity. You can make it anything you want it to be.
And if people at work Google you, they don't see your weird online life because the names aren't connected. You can stay anonymous. Very, very handy in today's internet land. And your avatar, your green jacketed, red-haired avatar, that doesn't look like you at all. Why did you decide to have that look for your cartoon self?
The red hair was kind of an accident, actually. It's supposed to be like brown. I still see it as like brown and auburn, but everybody interprets it as orange. So I just kind of let people interpret it as that. But I'm still happy with it. It feels like me inside. So I just go with that.
Fair enough. So I found out in my deep research into your online life that when you were in 2018, you were working on the Bendy and the Ink Machine song, Alice's Tango. And apparently, according to yourself, you were still getting the hang of being a music producer, even though you had been singing for like 5+ years beforehand. So how did you even get started into making and producing and showing off music?
Whew, that's a big one. So in terms of the production side of things, I still don't consider myself a good producer at all. I still consider myself very much someone who's learning all the time with that. And so the way I got started with that is that I kind of just played around with the tools that were available to me. Like if you happen to have a MacBook, it comes free with GarageBand, and GarageBand happens to have a lot of tools that, well, it may not be as fancy as others, it's actually pretty good for starting out. And so I just kind of played around with that a little bit more. I just played with, ooh, does this sound good with this sound? This is cool. And then I kept going using that. I referenced tracks I thought were cool, like tangos, because I always thought I love the beat of them. I love the feel of them. I love the drama. And so that's kind of the feeling I wanted to emulate. And so I just kept re-listening to stuff, listening back to what I was doing, and just kind of going back and forth on it.
I noticed by going by your earlier videos, you were doing, what have I got here? My Little Pony covers, lyrical versions of music from Undertale, Mystery Skulls comic dubs, and you seem to be a perfect example of the kind of person who gets into this stuff for, well, a common reason, and that is you started doing it and you seem to continue to be doing it for fun, and you create the things that you would want to see in the world. And not only that, you seem to, it's like you wanted to have the prestige of being a part of a group of online people. Is that an accurate assumption on my part?
Definitely the fun part. And it's just definitely that. And I don't know if prestige is the way I'd put it, but I just wanted to connect with people. I just saw people who had a like-minded interest in what I wanted, and I figured, wow, this is something I've always wanted, is a connection like this. And so part of me getting into online content and doing what I do was to find a sense of community and a sense of friendship and people that I can connect with.
Remember your first moments when you started to see these people and think that you wanted to join in the fun?
Oh, absolutely. Like I have been doing, Like I have been doing this for a long time before like the pony covers and stuff like that. Back in high school is how this really got started. And and while I got into when I actually started producing things in high school, I really started learning that this kind of community existed all the way back in like beginning of freshman year in middle school is kind of when I started really seeing it. And I thought, wow, this is incredible that you don't have to be in a big studio or something, that a lot of people can do this. And there are people out there who have the same interest as me. And maybe I'm not as alone as I thought I was in this. And so what ended up happening is that as soon as I got the chance to, as soon as I had a laptop that could actually make this kind of music and stuff like that, I just using GarageBand and my laptop mic, I recorded my first cover and I just put it up out there and just on as everybody a lot of people do on Twitter, I just started following people and talking to people. And then eventually someone connected with the stuff I liked and they liked it. And so we hooked up on Skype and then we just started talking and then I just started joining more groups and we just kind of more and more it kind of grows organically, those kind of friend groups and connections.
I've noticed that there's several songs online that seem to be more popular for people to cover than other kinds of songs. I've got Die Anywhere Else from Night in the Woods, The Villain I Appear to Be, Friend Like Me from Aladdin, and Other Friends from Steven Universe. Those songs and a couple other ones seem to be done more often than other kinds of covers. So what do you think it is about those songs and other popular cover songs that make them so coverable?
They're fun. Honestly, that's like the main thing is that they're just fun to produce, they're fun to make, and people recognize them and like singing them. And so when people have that, it's like, oh, cool, this person did something else I liked, and I want to and I want to listen to that. And so people will keep doing these things so that they keep making the covers because they enjoy it, and people will keep listening to them because they like the song, but maybe they want to hear something new done with it.
Is that all that matters to you now when you're deciding what you want to sing, if it's fun or not?
I mean, that's a big factor in it. Sometimes I'll do it because I've been asked it a lot and then I'll turn it into something that's fun. But I'd say that's probably the most important things that I want to be able to enjoy myself while I'm doing it.
You worked as a storyboard and character artist for Oreo's Clover music videos back in 2020. Speaking of people asking you to do things, how were you asked to do that?
I was just asked to jump on board for the character designs to see if I wanted to do that. And it just, again, it's just like an organic thing. Group of friends will get together. They'll say, I have this idea. Do you want to jump in on it? And then we'll say, sure. And then we kind of just start figuring out what we want to do with it as it goes on. And in this case, she asked me, hey, could you help me with some character design stuff? And I said, sure. And so we just would get into a call and we start drawing stuff. We just start making up concept sketches and we just kind of enjoy it. We try making the things that we want to see.
Right. Is that how most, if not all of these collaborations start and process?
For the most part, I'd say so. Nowadays, it's also a lot of just saying, hey, I got this thing I want to do. Do you want to hop on? And then I'll say, sure. And then I'll listen to the thing and I'll just do it because I enjoy it.
The reason why I'm so curious as to how collaborations with you start is that I found out that apparently you don't know how to read sheet music, and you aren't the first Nerdcore online singer lady person that I've spoken to who doesn't know how to read sheet music. So it's not like that rare of a thing. I don't know how you do what you do without the ability to read sheet music. So when you're asked to collaborate on things, what do they send you that makes you know what to sing, if not the sheet music?
Usually it's a reference track. Usually it's something, because it's usually a melody or a harmony or something like that. In terms of if they already have a set melody in mind and they already have an idea of what they want me to sing, usually they'll send me what's called a reference track, which is either like a piano or a MIDI of some kind, plucking out all the notes that they want me to sing. And then I'll just sing to that as a reference. And then whatever lyrics they have, I'll just read those and sing along with those.
So just to be honest and to talk about myself for a little bit, a couple of the people that I've spoken to on this thing that I do, to me, I consider them to essentially be AAA celebrities. And I put you in that group of people, because this online creator world is just where I go to get entertainment now and not anywhere else. So, and compare that to celebrities on the Tonight Show that have famous faces and famous names. Voice actors, singers, people like you, online singers and visual artists, they're famous and appreciated because of what they create, not like who they are as people per se. And I would say within 10 years, if not already, I'd say someone growing up listening to your music, eventually they might play one of your songs while they like dance at their wedding, because it's going to be the thing that they grew up listening to. Do you ever think about not necessarily your fans, but the people growing up listening to your music and how it might be emotionally affecting them nostalgically with their life? Because it is.
To some degree, yeah. A little while back, I made a TikTok kind of putting out a little reel of everything I've done, or like at least a lot of the big numbers that I did. And so many of the comments were, I remember listening to this in middle school. I remember listening to this in high school. I can't believe that was you. And it's just like, I'm already seeing a little bit of that. And it's kind of like an honor in a way. It's honorable. It's honorable that they would think of me in that context of me being a part of their lives or a moment in their life. And it's not something I'm really good at putting into words, but it feels good. It feels very good.
Is this a thing that you see yourself doing for multiple decades into the future as you grow up with your grown-up fans?
Who knows? Honestly, who knows? I keep doing it as long as I enjoy it. And if I don't enjoy it, I don't do it anymore.
A while ago, I stumbled upon this big singing video where a bunch of Nerdcore online singers were together singing a song, like segment by segment. And I was so shocked how like 20 people were able to create this online brand for themselves that people cared about more than them just being a good singer. So the Chichi brand, how did you create and build the Chichi brand beyond you just singing good songs?
Honestly, I don't know how I'm building it myself. I'm kind of just going along. I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's fair enough.
But I just kind of go with things that I enjoy and I know I've been saying that word over and over again, but that is kind of the ethos of everything that I do is just, does this make me happy? Yes, then I'll go with it. And then I just kind of, I guess my brand per se is just trying to do something that would make people smile. And I want to make people happy when I can. And if what I'm doing is making people happy, then I'm doing what I want.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that some of your videos have millions of views and some of your videos of, I'd say, equal quality have hundreds of thousands of views. And just to be presumptuous, I don't think that it really matters to you, that sort of view disparity, because you are doing this for fun. You are doing this to create things that you would want to see in the world. So I guess it just doesn't really bother you, because the fact that it exists, the fact that it's able to be searched for, the fact that you've got videos that are like 12 years old and they're still there, you just do it for fun and it stays there forever. And these kinds of songs, they're big deals to a lot of people. Like I said, they grow up watching them, they go there to get their entertainment. But then I forget to log into YouTube and I get onto the YouTube homepage and I see like the latest Kesha or whatever song has like 40 million views in 10 seconds. And I'm like, oh, right, yeah, there's a world outside of this. But still, millions of views, tens of millions of views for your music and other people's music. Do you think that there's a chance that underground musicians like yourself are going to rise up and take down the mainstream entertainers?
I don't know if there's necessarily going to be a takedown per se, but there is definitely more eyes on us than there were in the past. I definitely say it's just, as long as people have a special interest of some kind, as long as people have a niche that they're not seeing being filled in the mainstream, they will find an underground to fulfill that. And that can be said for anything, whether it's nerdcore related music, whether it's folk music, whether it's whatever is not the main thing right now, there will always be an underground market for it. It's just a matter of where those groups of people find their interest being met, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube or Spotify or something like that, and how those communities congregate. I strongly believe that it's the whole thing of like supply and demand, and there will always be a demand for something that is the mainstream.
I've asked this question before, but I'll ask you, what is your personal definition of nerdcore?
Honestly, it's a little broad, but I think it's anything that deals with media, anything that's supposed to be media or anything that's inspired by media. So usually in the nerdcore side of things, it's usually like anime or video games or comics, Marvel, DC, all that kind of thing. Everything that's considered quote unquote nerdy. But honestly, I feel like a lot of stuff can just be media in general. A lot of the fan music people make these days, sometimes it'll be for films, even. Sometimes films that are not the nerd stuff, the sci-fi stuff. Sometimes it's just what speaks to someone. When people think of nerdcore, it's typically more of the movies, anime, video games, sci-fi, fantasy type thing. But the way I think it's going to happen more is that we're going to see more of nerdcore music being inspired by anything. It's just kind of, it's based off, the way I kind of feel it's like it's based off of or inspired by some pre-existing story or product or franchise or character or something like that.
For the longest time, I wasn't into rap music, and I never really went searching for it. I just sort of assumed that it wasn't really my kind of thing. And then I started listening to JT Machinima and Distupendium, and I went, oh, it isn't rap music. It's the content and the topic of the song itself. And that's sort of what nerdcore music is. It's based off a thing that people care about. And you can see this with videos, nerdcore music videos that get a lot of attention. So much of it has to do with outside circumstances, with the timing. If you're like 2 months late to release a nerdcore music video based on like a video game, that can just halve the views at least. But you yourself have reached over 300,000 subscribers last year. And I want to ask, when that happened, what were you immediately thinking in terms of your humble beginnings, where you came from back in 2013?
I guess for me, it felt good. It felt like a badge of honor. Like, hey, I've made it this far from then. I can keep doing this. People want to listen to me. And it feels good. It feels good to be recognized and to have all that hard work be recognized in those numbers. But at the same time, it was just kind of like, hey, that's cool. Now back to the grind. And it's just like, the numbers are awesome and everything, but I also want to put stuff out when I can and just kind of be like, I don't know if nostalgic's the word for it. I just kind of felt like, awesome, this is cool. I'm going to keep going. I guess at the moment, it was honorable, and it's awesome that people supported me in that context. But I guess I wasn't as reflective as I thought I was going to be when it actually happened. But it did feel really cool.
So when you're thinking about your life as an online singer, is there anything at this point right now that you would like to say to your 2012 Chichi self in terms of what you were passionate about, what you should focus on, what you should steer away from?
Keep going. I tell her, keep going, keep making stuff, do what your heart wants. And it's going to be all worth it in the end.
Did you have doubts starting out, like when you were releasing stuff and you were getting like no views? Were you like, screw it, I'll just pack this in? But no, you should keep on going.
Yeah, I guess for me, it wasn't really about getting noticed or becoming popular. I just wanted to create, and so I wanted an outlet. I think was the main thing. I wanted an outlet, and I wanted to connect to people. And I guess it took, I don't know, probably like a couple months or something like that until I started connecting with people, but I just really wanted that outlet. I just really wanted that way of connecting with people who were interested in what I liked. And
And
at the end of the day, that's what I really wanted.
back in the day, back in the early YouTube days, having 300,000 subscribers it just didn't happen if you go back far enough. But now everyone's online, everyone's learning things. There are videos on YouTube that have millions of views, and they're about like, this is how you code, this is how you plant a garden, this is how you do like a physical exercise. And those get a lot of attention, a lot of views, because people are longing for education. They want to learn practical skills. That's their motivation for getting that video to 1 million views. What do you think is the motivation of your fans and listeners to come to you and get your videos to millions of views?
I guess it's that a similar kind of thing. They want something that they can themselves connect to in a musical form. And sometimes it's their hyperfixation on something like Among Us or Five Nights at Freddy's or Bendy and the Ink Machine, whatever they're really interested, really into at the time. They want something that can connect with that. And I think that for a lot of my music, they want that kind of connection. They want to be seen. They want to be understood.
How often do you interact with your fans on this kind of connection topic?
It's mostly on Twitter and stuff like that. Is usually I'll talk to people here and there. I do get overwhelmed sometimes by a lot of people, so sometimes I won't talk as much as I usually would. Sometimes it's also when I have the ability to do streaming is the other place I usually talk to fans a lot. And that's a really good format of just being able to interact with people very casually.
Do you think that helps? Yeah, do you think that helps anything with your? I mean, if you didn't do that, do you think that would hinder the amount of attention and views that you would get, or even your enjoyment in the process of making music for these people?
I think to some degree. It's like the whole thing of you got to have boundaries. You got to be careful about stuff here and there about how much information you tell someone. But it's like you still want to try to come off as genuinely as you can. And so when I'm interacting with people, I try to do that. Like I don't always have the opportunity or the energy to interact with. It feels weird calling them fans, but I guess there's no other word for it at the moment. Fans. I want to be able to do it as genuinely as possible. I want it to come across as I see you as a person. I see you as an individual, and I'm glad that you enjoy my content as an individual in this way.
A couple of years ago, you put out a YouTube poll asking your fans if they would want to see more videos of you showing your face. And to absolutely no one's surprise, 82% of people said yes. Was there what was the process of you deciding to yourself that you, as Chichi, as brownish red-haired, green-jacketed Chichi, when was the moment that you thought that you should show your face and show your face more often?
When I started getting more serious about it, I think. When I started being like, you know what, I'm already doing this more. I might as well be transparent about who I am and just what I look like. Because I guess another part of it is that I don't want people to be able to use my face and what I look like as a way of like, hey, I know this about you. That means that unless you say X, Y, and Z, I'm gonna leak it to the world or something like that. It's just like I want to keep it as regular as possible, I say is the word for it. I just want it to be like, yeah, this is me. This is who I am. And just kind of keep things casual without having to be like some big secret reveal or something like that.
And well, speaking of showing your face, you have been performing live for well over 6 years now. How do these convention events, how do they contact you to get you to sing for them?
Usually it's me contacting them.
Oh, okay.
Usually it's I contact them or a friend of mine is doing something and they're like, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Like a big part of like the musician world is that you're applying to these places. At least from where I come from, it's much more us going to apply to them or talk to them than it is them coming to us, at least in my personal experience.
So when you are out performing live and there's live people in front of you, it isn't just you in your room with a microphone and a computer screen. How does it feel to see the people that have come to see you specifically live?
Oh my God, I love it. It's one of I'm a theater kid through and through, and so being on stage that's awesome. It's like that personal high experience of like, I love this. This is new. This is what I live for.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting for you to say that you're a theater kid who does so much online stuff, because I am too. I'm a theater person who does more online stuff than actual theater stuff. And it's this weird dichotomy that I see with pretty much every online singer, where I think to myself, are they like a general performer that uses online resources to boost their profile, or are they an online entertainer that performs live as like a cool, hey, look at me, I'm live kind of gimmick?
I think it's both. I think it's a big mixture of both of those things. I guess where I lie on myself is that I probably fall more into the later category. Like, I love performing live and everything, but just due to the resources available to me, due to time constraints, and energy is a big part of it. Time and energy, that is like the biggest factor in all of this, is that I just kind of tend to lean more towards the online presence side of things.
I should have asked this. This should have been the first thing that I asked. What's going on with the polar bear in the background? Is it just me, or did it just move?
No, he's in there the whole time.
All right, I'm just freaking out. What's with the freaky polar bear?
His name is Aslat. I got him as a present from my dad when I was little, and I just always kept him.
Really?
And he makes for a great conversation starter.
That's why I should have mentioned it first. My mistake. Also, a question that I should have asked first. Chichi. Where did the name Chichi come from?
So, originally, my name was Chisana I on the internet, but everybody kept pronouncing it as Chrysanda, even though I don't know where they got the R from, but they just kept doing that. So I just decided to truncate it to something very simple. Chi, that's it. And it rolls off the tongue. It makes people smile when they say it. So there we go.
And you are also a visual artist. You draw stuff. And that actually seems pretty common among many other nerdcore people. But I see that people that have an equal interest and an equal talent in drawing and singing, their content is like 90% singing and like 10% drawing sometimes, if that. My theory is, I guess it's a bit more easier and a bit more palatable to have a song with a still thumbnail than a silent animatic. But why do you think there is that kind of disparity for those two skills?
I'd say it's more so a reflection of self-criticism in that way. Because I feel like with music, it's much easier to put it out than it is for to do artwork and put it out there. And that's at least for me anyway. Because some people hold different standards for themselves for what they feel comfortable representing visualizes themselves or what they want visually. And sometimes depending on what the song is or for whatever reasons, maybe they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel like their art skills are there. At least that's how it is for me. Is that sometimes for certain songs or for certain projects, it's just not the visual identity I want at the time. So I'll usually go out to someone else and say, hey, can I commission this from you? Because I want it to look like this. And they'll say, sure. So I'd say it all depends on what the project calls for at the time. And my art, I feel like, doesn't always reflect what I want at the time. Or I just don't have the energy to put in what I feel like the video visually needs.
Out of all online singers that I can think of, you have been doing this for longer than many others that I can think of off the top of my head, which makes you the best candidate to ask you about this phenomenon of online entertainers, people that make content in their own house with the microphone right there and their computers there. They don't have any sort of fancy studio that they have to drive to. How have you witnessed the genesis and the change of and the changes of this kind of community over literally the past decade?
And you're talking about just like online music making in general.
Sure, yeah.
I'd say the biggest changes from that is we're all growing up now. We're grown up. We have budget. We have the ability to have budgets now. We have being able to get a setup and knowing what your setup should be like is much more accessible right now. And so I feel like a lot of that big change is just the accessibility in terms of skills, the accessibility of learning different things. And I'd say as time's gone on, there's been more and more information on how to do that than there was in like 5 or 10 years ago even. And so it's just been a whole thing of people, more and more people learning, oh wait, you can do this, you don't need to be in a professional studio or something. And it's also the equipment that just gets better over time too, is a big part of it.
So if somebody wanted to be the next Chichi and knock you off your perch over the next couple of years, what should they be doing and looking out for? What are the pitfalls?
I'd say that's a good question. I'd say be open-minded. The best thing you can do in this kind of pathway is just be open-minded to people. Be open-minded to communities. If you're enjoying something, go for it. Don't feel like it has to be perfect. Don't feel like you need to be at X level in order to do something. No, just go for it. Just go for it and enjoy it and make friends. Make friends with the people that you work with. Learn about them. Connect with them. Because at the end of the day, and I still hold true to this, it's about the connections more than maybe not more than anything else, but let me restate that. It is about the connections. The connections are what hold everything together and make everything possible. And it's important to really genuinely be in those connections if you can.
Do you ever have the fear that the media that you sing about, that you cover, that you draw about sometimes, is just eventually going to run dry and not fill you with much passion anymore, and it's eventually just going to fade away?
I mean, we all move on all the time. Like, as you can see far back, I didn't always keep making songs about ponies. I didn't always keep doing comic dubs about certain things. I didn't always keep making lyrics for Undertale. I kept going where my interest lies. And I feel like it's important to give yourself the freedom to try out new things and to change. And maybe that means you write completely original music about something else. Maybe that means you move on to you change your hyperfixation in one way or another. Or maybe that means trying out a new media outside of music in general, but that's fine. Life is about change. And so being able to just accept when change happens and try something new and being able to adapt to it, that's a big part of it.
I think the best piece of advice given to anyone who wants to start some kind of artistic journey is that you need to love it. It isn't just a boost if you're passionate. It's the foundation of creating it, because your passion for it is the fuel that creates it. And if you don't love it, you just can't do it. You have to stop, because it's going to eat you alive, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
So where can people go to follow you and all of your stuff?
So I'm Chichi AI on Twitter, and my YouTube handle is that now too. I'm also on Twitch as Chichi AI, so that's CHI, capital A, and the letter I. And you just find me there. You can also just look up Chichi on Spotify and I come up. And if you are interested in seeing more of the things I do, just find me where you can. And if you like what you see, stop on by.
Well, that leaves us to the last question that I always ask on this thing that I do, which is, of course, why are stories important?
Stories are important because people connect with them. Stories are important because it's a way of showing people that they are not alone in what they're going through. They're not alone in their identity. They're not alone in whatever situation they are. It's a way of being able to see yourself in some capacity, one way or another. That doesn't mean that every single story is going to be like that. Sometimes stories are important in order to see a different side of someone else and being able to see the perspective of someone else's experiences. And I feel like in that regard, stories are important because you can see yourself, you can see others. It's a window into things you can't see with your eyes.
Nice. Miss Chi, thank you so much for coming on to One Story Building.
Yeah, thank you. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.